Hey, Andrew Howell, here we are again with more festive hats and jackets. Ooh, our name's even looking different this week, too. We're upgrading here as we have finally made it, our friends, to the end of this year, which is 2020. Andrew, how has your holiday week been? How are you?
Great. I had a wonderful Christmas. How about you?
A wonderful Christmas. I've been secluded here in the friendly confines of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but it's been lovely to spend some time at home with the family, to dust off my old 12th night hats or one of these things out there that was made by our fabulous costume folks, and to get to a little bit of rest. So, but at the chorus of Westerly, we never rest. And just because we're sort of shut down in our building and are at home with our families doesn't mean we don't want to do things. And so before we proceed forward, you're going to see a lot of virtual content over the next few weeks, which Andrew Howell is going to tell you all about. But the folks that made it all possible, we received a generous grant from Rhode Island Commerce and the state of Rhode Island through the ESR Heart Recovery Program to help make our recent Christmas Pops release possible, and the release of all of the material you're about to see over the next 2 weeks to help the artistic community here in Southern New England. So a fine thank you to the state of Rhode Island and to Rhode Island Commerce. Also, many, many thanks to the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts. By the way, yesterday was Randy Rosenbaum, the executive director of RISCA's birthday. So happy birthday, Randy.
Happy birthday.
So big thanks to Randy and all the folks at RISCA. And of course, our friends at the Blue Mitten Thrift Shop, who always help us sing and go forward. But before we bring in our co-host this week and our guest, Andrew's got to tell you a little bit about what we're up to over the next 12 days.
Yeah, so we were trying to think of some fun stuff to put out into the universe from the Chorus of Westerly over this period after Christmas, and thought what better way to do that than to kind of harken back to our time in 12th Night and distill little elements of that into posts and little offerings that we will put out each evening or afternoon whenever we decide to do this, focusing on one little piece of 12th Night. So we're starting obviously with this right here. You get an interview show with all of us crazy people. And then we're going to be releasing a little bit of the documentary film that we released this summer that is just the 12th Night portion. So you'll get to see that little snapshot of what happened at the end of 12th Night, which is also found in our documentary. Then we're going to have some artistic offerings. We've got a little bit from Andrew Burnap. He's going to be doing some work for us. We've got a jester show coming from the Micklins. We've got a mini concert featuring some of our favorite soloists and a little harp interlude as well in honor of our friend Joan Cheo. We're going to have a bunch of offerings for all of you to hopefully join with us, where we're going to be looking for submissions from the public for things such as an audition to become a tree, or if you were ever a gymnast or dancer in 12th Night, we'd love a little video from you of seeing how things are now. Can you do, backflip or whatever at this point in your life? We're going to have a bit of... Nor can I, never could. We're going to have a little thing from Peter Liebert as well. We're going to reminisce about early 12th Night. Andrew Ledestri is going to do something spectacular for us. And then we're going to cap it all off on the last 2 nights with a virtual choir that we are currently in process of putting together using Candlemas Eve, which is the Down with the Rosemary and Bays that was at the end of each 12th Night show. And then we'll have a final spectacular send-off with the John Tafone medley of 12th Night that will be set with pictures and videos from old 12th Night to cap it off. So we have 12 separate offerings that we're going to be putting out every day. So just a little tidbit for you all to consume on a daily basis to hopefully keep you in the spirit.
It sounds wonderful, and you'll be seeing a lot more. Go to our website, chorusofwesterly.org, or again, you can go to our Facebook page, and there'll be a lot of information, particularly posted over the next 24 or so hours, as things are coming together fast, because this grant actually happened pretty quick in December, so we had to put it together fast, and we've been making changes last minute here and there. But if we wanted to recreate the feeling of 12th Night in terms of urgency and rush and a lot of work in 12 days, congratulations, Andrew. You and I have created that, at least for each other. So with that said, let's bring in our co-hosts, the wonderful Amy Blanchette, Andrew Ledestri, and Mike Freitas from all spots around the world. There they are. Andrew is already auditioning to be a tree. Amy,
I'm going to make it in this year.
We only had a speaking tree once, I think, and that was actually Mike Freitas, and that was actually not that was a impromptu comment in the middle of an Abbott's Bromley that had George Utter chasing him down the stairs of the performance hall. But we won't cover that. But hey, friends, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas week. Everyone doing okay?
Yeah. Totally.
It's great to see you all, and thank you all for being a big part of the show today and this week with us. Amy and Michael and Andrew Ledestri have certainly had huge parts to do with the show too, and they'll be offering their insights and work with Derron and Harvey. Full disclosure, Amy and Harvey are brother and sister, just in case you're wondering. Whoa. Yeah, that's there. But Amy, for years and years and years, was our stage manager, our production stage manager. She drove the ship so well to make sure things happened in the hall for us. I think we would all agree that the 12th night world and the magic and all of the elements don't happen for years and years without Amy's dedication. She was for many years too in other roles, including being in the cast and on the stage. And with one of our guests coming up, Derron Wood, she's also done a lot of acting stuff over at Flock Theater. Michael Freitas has sung in the chorus and also acted on stage many years. He was a garage number 8 many years back. And just as proof that sometimes there's no favoritism of the program. Michael and I have been dear friends, best friends since Michael, Andrew, and I have been best friends since nursery school, even before that even. I left him out of the program that year, so I'm still apologizing for leaving out the garage that you were.
I don't act for the recognition.
That's true. That's true. I mean, there's a future for you in it all right there. And then Andrew Ledestri, of course, a fabulous, first of all, he's the artistic director of the Upstage Players Theater up in Littleton, New Hampshire, which is doing great things, but a fine actor himself in many 12th nights, and one of our lead costume designers for many, many years, of which you saw some of his work in that shot that Andrew, yes, we're wearing some of it right now. So we have some great folks here just on our regular crew. But today we've got 2 very special guests coming in. The first one is certainly another longtime dear friend of all of ours and Amy's brother. Also, full disclosure, the facilities manager of the George Kent Performance Hall and the Chorus of Westerly, and that is Harvey Blanchette, who wrote a celebration of 12th night for about, I think, the last decade of its existence after Ann Utter's passing. And even before that was a frequent behind-the-scenes person on the tech side, on the stage, many, many years, pretty much since birth had something to do with the show. So it's, I think, encoded in his DNA, much like Amy's DNA, too, from the very beginning. And then, of course, joining along with him is our very, very dear friend, Derron Wood, the fabulous stage director, the artistic director, I think that's his title, of the amazing Flock Theater in New London, Connecticut. I believe their website is flocktheater.org if you want to check them out or make a nice end-of-the-year donation to Flock Theater, another wonderful 501c3 doing great things in Connecticut, flocktheater.org, and R-E at the end of theater. Derron has had a long theater career, but he is just one of the kindest, most thoughtful gentlemen you will ever meet. He, I think, directed 12th Night for almost half of its existence and was I know for fact, he was the longest serving tenured director of a celebration of 12th Night. And over the years, there were many a conversation in my office with Derron and Harvey, or Derron and Harvey and Amy, or Derron and Amy without me there, or them. I mean, this man really lived in our building for several weeks out of the year, so we miss him dearly at this time of the year. And with that said, we'd like to welcome into the Community Chorus Show's 12th Night Special Edition, none other than Harvey M. Blanchette and Derron Wood. Bring him in there, Ben.
Woo!
Finally, you get to be crowned king and queen. You get to be who?
Who's who?
I don't think that'd be the first time, though.
Friends, welcome. Thank you for being with us here. How are you both doing?
I'm doing fine over in New London. We've been, like everyone, hunkered down. So it's just a matter of doing what you got to do to get through.
Yeah.
And fine. The chorus building keeps me pretty busy. Things break, on a fairly regular basis. So
it's the boiler's special time of year right now, right? I think we're down. we seem to shed one circulator pump every December.
That's time.
Yep. Christmas is here. Like Santa comes out and delivers presents. Everyone has Christmas meals at their homes, and a chorus circulator pump fails. But Harvey has been helping us out behind the scenes, making sure, and he's kept the building going all year long. So God bless you for that, Harvey. Very, very much. So Derron, let's just start with you quickly. A little catch up. So through this whole COVID crisis, I've watched online with your makerspace and things like that. Flock Theater has been very active. Can you tell us just a little bit about what the year's been like for you?
Sure. I mean, when the world basically shut down, literally when we were in a school, it was March 13th. We were meeting with teachers to plan a residency, and we could tell that the school was shutting down, but they weren't allowed to tell us because emails were flying and everything was happening. The principal would walk in and all this stuff happened. And as soon as that happened, we really pivoted all of our education program to be online. Everything shifted online anyway. We then took what was our summer season and turned that virtual. However, we last minute were able to get a live show in, which we performed in Wilcox Park in Westerly. And we were able to do the Birds, a Greek play, which we put together very quickly and performed in August. But also starting in March, we started with a group that's wide open to the public. Anyone can come in and join. And during the week, Monday through Friday, we read one act of a Shakespeare play. And we are presently in the middle of Tempest. We're going to read Act 2 tonight. But I think we only have like 8 plays left. We've read the entire canon, as well as some additions that were kicked in there, like Don Juan in Hell, because who doesn't want to read Don Juan in Hell?
Who doesn't?
Right. So we've been doing a lot of that. We are opening a live Beckett show in, I believe it's 2 weeks, Craps Last Tape, which will be done via Zoom and different web links and things like that. But we've been very, very busy, as well as a tremendous amount of online content through our puppetry. We've been filmed a lot of puppetry, so that stuff is up and out. We created this one little math bird video that is now like close to over 3,000 views, which is shocking. It's like everything else is like, 200 views, 400 views. This little bird video we put together very quickly with puppets singing this math song. 3,000 views. So, man, we'll have to look into and figure that one out pretty soon. But we've been busy, very, very busy.
You found your market.
Yeah. I was like, who knew math videos for kids with puppets? Well,
it's so funny how that part changes. There's at least 4 of us on the screen right now that are running arts organizations in one way or another. And people ask me all the time and assume I'm not doing anything. And I feel busier in so many ways as the industry changes and we're doing different things and trying to pour ourselves in and keep ourselves artistic in the right way. I feel busier than I ever have before in a lot of ways.
I would agree with that 100%. My main goal when everything hit, we're a very small organization, and we've got two people that work with me, and my main goal was to never have to shut down and never lay anyone off, and we've made it this far, and I'm determined to make it all the way through.
That's fantastic.
But it does mean a lot more work in different ways.
Well, it's a lot of reinvention that I think we've all had to do. And I think you're right. I do feel that too. Is that we've been. It's hard to tell people we've been as busy as we've ever been, and it's just even doing stuff like this. I mean, you had to think so differently, but at least in terms of your creative content. I want to just to kind of pivot over to 12th Night here a little bit about sort of our backgrounds with all of it. I was thinking, as we kick off this week and we're doing all this stuff, we should really. It's been a number of years now since we had the show, so we should really explain to people what 12th Night is. But then I thought, we'll show the 12th Night clip of the documentary tomorrow, and they can watch that But what's funny about watching the 12th Night clip in the documentary is George Kent. I try to explain it. Andrew tries to explain it, and none of us, I don't think, sufficiently do. And Bunking kind of gives up and goes, "It was his 12th night," like that kind of deal. So I thought actually to take it back, and Harvey, you were born into it, so it was like, again, you watched it all along. But Derron, there was a point in time where when Ann Utter hired you, I'm assuming, and she came to offer you the job or pitch this to you, and I'm very curious, what did Ann say, or how did she describe it to you? How did she entice you to come take this job? And then what kept you coming back to it?
I believe initially I was approached by Peter Liebert, to be honest with you. I believe Peter came to a Make We Joy festival, which I've directed for 40 some years, and has similar elements to a 12th Night festival. And then it was a meeting that was set up with Anne. And, I think because of my experience with Make We Joy, I had a certain edge on other people, because coming in, I already knew what an Abbott's Bromley horn dance was. I know what a lot of the Morris dances are. I know Mummers plays. I know those elements. So it's no one needed to explain why a bunch of people were waltzing down the aisle with deer antlers on their head, and and that sort of that's normal. It literally was just diving into the story. And I believe my first year, and Amy can correct me if I'm wrong, because I easily could be wrong, but I believe my first year was the Green Queen, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
I think that's right.
And she was resurrecting an old script, because she wasn't happy with the way the puppet was built initially, or something like that, because we were hired to I was hired to direct it, but also rebuild the Green Knight with the head that gets chopped off. And so there was a lot of that, and then from there it just became a new story and new year. And some years the stories were very accessible, and other years they were very ethereal. We'll put it that way. But it was always an adventure. It was always wild.
Angela Desprey, you and I were talking earlier today about this a little bit. You want to follow up about kind of that process with Anne?
Yeah, and it's funny what you just said, Derron, in terms of the stories and sort of the ethereal quality. And I feel very lucky that one of the things that I used to do is spend a lot of time talking to Anne early in the year before she got anything on paper out to any of us. And, she would often feel like her brain was all over the place with, she would see a picture, and that year, that was the thing she was obsessed about, and that would need to become whatever the storyline was, or a specific piece of poetry. And we all know that Anne would choose these fantastic pieces of poetry, and then the question would be like, how does this make it into something accessible for the regular community? And for you to have done that for so many years and to work with her in that way, my personal feeling from everything that she said and then I witnessed is that you and she weren't just a writing and directing pairing, but you were able to come in and bring to the table this sort of new writing partnership where she would come up with these fantastic concepts, and then you would come in and layer it all together in a way that worked. And so could you tell us a little bit about sort of what that process was like as you then started to feel like this is home for you and you would do this on a yearly basis?
Sure. I think as things developed, both with Anne and then with Harvey, it was sort of bringing in my traditional theatrical background and really looking at premise and wants and looking at somewhat of a musical structure. What is the I Wish song? So all of a sudden it's like, okay, is that going to be conveyed now through dance, or is that going to be conveyed through an aria, or how are we going to establish that? Is there a production number? Like one of my favorite production numbers was, the ship with the mops. And I mean, that was just a huge, I don't know how many people were on that stage. It was insane, but it was.
Derron, that just came up in my Facebook memories.
But it's like, okay, well, you have an a wishing number, you've got a production number, you've got, okay, now are we going to introduce evil? Who's evil? What's evil? And how are we going to establish that? And I think a big element. Well, there are two big things that I recall working with her on, and one was Anne of Aquitaine. Was that
Eleanor?
Eleanor of Aquitaine.
Eleanor, yeah. And the decision when I was like, well, we have to make the jesters the nuns, and we have to go comic, and she allowed that, and I do feel that the show needed that comic element to further the story. And the other was that the little 5-year-old girl, when I changed the age of that character and the Star Child element, and it just to sort of really shift the dynamics. But it was an amazing process, working with Harvey, working with Anne, and because you've got these writing artists that are coming in, and then you're working with this incredible music, these incredible costumes. You've got opera singers and clarinetists and jesters, and then a giant inflatable dragon or something, and in the end you want to try and make some continuity with it, but it really was really one of the most incredible experiences and joys, or there's no way I would have ever come back. I would have just gone. I'll be the treat.
So you work for years with this, and then it becomes your home, and you're part of this, and you and Anne are creating in the way that you're creating, and then we get to a point where Anne is ill and older and not able to do this anymore, and then Harvey, you stepped in this fantastic way, and you have a background in writing, and you came in so creatively, and this show is in your blood, as Ryan was saying earlier, and we all know that you were able to come in and sort of take up that mantle and make this piece happen. And then so as the years went on, I think Ryan just said that you did the last 10 years of the show, which is phenomenal to think sort of how much that becomes. Like as the time goes on, and then you go from the point of feeling like, oh my God, how do I take this on and do it, to then feeling like it's yours. What was that like? How long does it take you to feel like, okay, well, this is mine and I can put my own spin on this and I can take it in my own place? What was that like for you?
I think the way I ended up doing the gig couldn't have been better for me as a writer, because Anne's health wasn't a sudden decline. So I remember I want to say in October of that year. Is that right, Amy? Amy approached me somewhere mid-year. I was approached and told, updated on Anne's health, and asked to see if I could help get the script on its feet and get it ready, get it show ready. So I received draft 3 from her, and what it allowed me to do is and it was very early draft. So I remember what I ended up doing was I photocopied the script and physically wrote new passages on lined paper, and then with Scotch tape cut the script apart and taped it together with the new sections. So I have somewhere this 37-page draft that's like printed paper, then lined paper, handwritten, then printed paper again, and sections cut up to try to basically make the parts meet that needed to meet. And I met with Derron and I met with Anne. It was just trying to kind of put these Lego pieces together and not attempting to. I didn't for a second think that I was going to be able to mimic her voice, so I didn't make an attempt to. But also just being working with and being supported by Mr. Kent and Derron and Amy and everyone else who was around at that time. They had my support in doing what I needed to do to get the script functional. But still, I remember trusting. Still, Anne's instincts tended to just be spot on. I had one of the drafts before we got to sort of close to final draft. I had turned. There were shepherds, and I had made a bunch of sheep jokes. Like I'd made the sheeps the butt of some jokes and made some shepherd jokes, and like put her foot down. She was like, "No," she's like, sheep aren't funny." To which I'm like, "No, sheep are funny." But she really, absolutely not. Sheep are not funny. Like, and so the sheep jokes went, but the way it ended up being, it was the year that ended with the barber, that dance number, the sheep and the lamb, and I was like, "Oh yeah, like that was the mechanism of this. It was that the holiness of nature and that like purity." And so it was such a, and to have that year of, being able to basically ease into the shallow end, then the next year when I knew they were like, "Okay, we want you to just do this." I knew I was like, okay, then I've pretty much done it now. Like I took it from what was, close to notes. I've done it. I just have to do it again. And I was like, I'm going to start a brand new script, a story of my own. I don't want to try to like take one of Anne's old scripts and rehab it. And I did end up doing that later. I took an old story of hers and took a new spin on it. But that first time, just to push myself, just to dive in and be like, okay, this is my story. This is my show. And I think if I hadn't had the support in the working process with Derron, where we would just go and sit and he'd push me on premise and he'd push and push and push and like get it down to like, what's the fundamental message the script is trying to tell? Like, what's that one sentence that everything in the script needs to be kind of working towards? I wouldn't have ended up as good a writer as I ended up being, and I think we ended up doing some really wonderful shows.
Fantastic. And for people who don't realize, I mean, Amy, you probably could speak to this more than anybody. The like, in general, what do you say? Would you say the average amount of drafts of a 12th night was?
Oh, what's a draft? I mean, what is a draft? No, I mean, some years, it was tricky because there's a lot of, it's like education. There's a lot of stakeholders in a 12th night, and different people need a new draft for different reasons. We would get up to 13 or 14 and people are like, oh, ho, 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 we're on draft 14. But the thing is, like, there were times that I needed a new draft and Harvey didn't necessarily, or there were times that Bunky or Andrew needed a new draft, but Derron didn't necessarily. We could have kept going in the old one. So when you factor in all those different stakeholders, you do get up to a pretty significant chunk of drafts. I would say 10. I would say we got to double digits, starting with the very first draft that only Harvey or maybe Harvey and Derron would have seen.
But for people who don't know, so either when Anne was working with different directors and then with Derron, or when Harvey was working with Derron, I mean, in the course of drafts from beginning to end, I mean, Harvey, you can speak to this piece probably best. Like giant story elements change and characters come and go. And like, it's not just a matter of small tweaks. Like you guys would take these pieces and you're dealing with so many pieces from, there's going to be some giant inflatable thing. How is that going to fit in? And how does the chorus work into this? I mean, so much work that you guys do. And I'm assuming you would start on a yearly basis very soon after one show closed before you would start working on the next.
I eventually was more than a year ahead because of how long it takes me to form a story. I'm sitting on a draft that's done because that's just how it worked. I needed to be a couple of years ahead just because I needed that maturation. I needed to go through drafts. I need to, and time, honestly, the length of the show was always the biggest challenge because we'd have something that felt right, that told the story we wanted to, and it would be like 103 minutes, which is just unworkable. So, that would be so there was just, that's why I needed to just keep kind of hitting my start point earlier and earlier so that we could do it right.
Yeah. I remember being like the bunkie whisperer on a lot of those conversations because we would want to try to preserve as much of the story element as possible. So I would be the one to go to the bunkie and be like, could we please have a song that is 2 minutes long that communicates our hero's journey towards the quest? And be like, well, I've got this song, so it's 4.5 minutes long. Oh, like, okay, what if we cut some parts of the song order? That's a different song. So yeah, that was, I always felt like the time boss. Like I'd be the one to be like, the script is too long.
Oh, that was such a big part of your job. I mean, how much is on that stopwatch? You know, I mean,
let me ask an ignorant question to you, Derron, Harvey, Andrew Ledessier, or Amy in particular, and you too, Mike, because you are of the arts. This is not Andrew. This is not for me and you. So my theater experience, other than my starring roles with Pam Young at West Broad Street School, has been pretty limited to just 12th Night and attending many shows in my life.
You played John Adams, everybody. You should know that.
What's that?
You played John Adams, right?
Yes, I did. I played John Adams. I was the Tin Man, Prince Charming, and Davy Crockett. That's it. I peaked
All
at
in one show.
age 11. One show. It was a one-man show. Then I read A Christmas Carol at the end. It was amazing. Is bringing together a show like 12th Night or directing it, whatever, where the script is fluid and the actors are, you don't know who you're getting in, like everything can change. Is that a lot harder than, say, producing a Shakespearean? Is it harder? Okay, is it more enjoyable?
I'll try to answer that one. For years I would always say that 12th Night is backwards, and it is. You start on an immature draft, and you know that by the end, the show is not going to be what you start. And the very first night, you lock the bows.
True.
That's totally backwards from how everything in traditional theater is supposed to work.
Yeah.
You would begin, and there were times I began, and it would be like, okay, we have no idea what's actually going to be here because the principals haven't arrived and they haven't picked their solo yet. And when they come in, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, now there's this whole element of the show that you're opening later. You're opening in 3 days, 4 days. And here's these missing components. And that does make it more challenging. There are years where that works into the joy and the uniqueness and the festivities. But there certainly are other years where that added stress, especially in a short year, because that's another whole thing. We would always start the day after Christmas, but we're always open on the Epiphany. So, calendrically, you are compressing or expanding your rehearsal. And so you logistically, it can be very stressful. And when you don't know, like when I go into a traditional Shakespeare show, I can tell you pretty much down to 3 minutes the runtime before I've even started my rehearsals. There is no way you can do that with 12th Night. And then you get to work one night with the orchestra, and you are not allowed to go over, or you've cost a lot of money. And you have no idea what some of these actual components are because you've been working with a rehearsal tape, which may or may not be within the exact same time signature as the actual numbers once they're being performed. And there's just so much where you're just like, all right, hands up in the air. There's nothing I can do with this. This is where, as Amy and I would jokingly say, it's like, okay, the train's left the station and here we go. We just try not to stop, and we just hope a horse on stilts doesn't fall down. It's those sorts of things. It's
so much respect has to go to Amy and Derron for that specifically, because people don't realize that normally if you're working on a new project, you get months of time to workshop that piece. And, you know, Harvey would have, you know, well, he's saying that he would even be more than a year, but he would have a year to sort of marinate on the different topics that he's doing and refine the pieces that he's doing. And Andrew and I might get an extra month of time to think about the costume elements and the music elements and how that piece is going to happen. But from the day after Christmas, you know, on those short years, we had like 9 or 10 days. You know, that is such a condensed time for you guys to make those pieces come together. And we would all be working on that with you in that time, but you guys held the reins and the responsibility to see that people would get there and make that happen. I mean, Derron, you must have at least one good nightmare story you can tell us about, like the 11th hour of like, this might or might not come together, but the people are coming tomorrow. We'll see how this goes. I mean, tell us something good. Oh, you're muted.
Hang on, we got to unmute you.
I actually don't have any nightmares like that. I never felt like the show would not come together. There were years where I certainly was like, Sunday night will be a better performance than Saturday. Yeah, there wasn't, you know, because I was always given the option. And they, you know, from the get-go, they would always tell me, you can always stop the Friday night performance.
Friday night, yep.
And I was like, I will not. I mean, I would, if I needed to due to safety, certainly, you know, in a heartbeat. But
you never did you?
No, never.
I think, Derron, if my memory serves, there was only one time where you came to me and said, go out there and tell them that we might need to stop. And after you said that, you said, I want the cast to hear it more than the audience. Like, you sent me down there like a mission to make sure whatever was happening in that opening scene, everyone heard me clearly say, we might have to start this to start it again. But I know the cast can come through. In fact, I think you told me exactly what to say walking down the aisle, which made me laugh. And somewhere there's a video of it because I'm kind of cackling through the middle of it. Like, this isn't going to happen, but I'm threatening you.
but that's part of, I mean, that is part of directing.
Yeah.
Psychologically working with people, and sometimes you need to, you know, as a leader in anything, sometimes you need to crack the whip, and hopefully you do it rarely and judiciously so that it's you know, that you don't have to, but when you do, it's, you know, that, yeah, this is a possibility. And, you know, and especially if, for whatever reason, sometimes you need to motivate in different ways. And yeah, I remember that conversation with you. And it was, you know, and it was for everyone to hear so that their adrenaline just kicks up a little bit more so that their focus is just a little bit more. And, you know, I never had to, thank God. Because again, I would have only done it out of safety. But
yeah, there were a few years that we got lucky because there were effects, big effects that we were using for the first time on Friday night. And if those effects had not worked on the first time, I would have called a hold and we would have backed it up and tried it again. But every time the effects came through.
That was the stained glass windows, the one I really remember.
Yes, that was one of them.
I remember we did it at the rehearsal, I think, on Thursday night when we brought the snow machine in and it glazed the stage with like a layer of
soapy water.
Yeah, it was soapy water. I don't know if it was gymnasts or whatever, or what. They just all these kids flying across the stage, and I just made me horrified. Like, oh, this is not gonna work. But we fixed it. Whatever it was, we fixed it. It didn't happen in the show, but
nobody died.
No. So I guess this question to all of you, and maybe we'll start with you on this one, Harvey. You know, there's 40 years worth of shows, you know, and how many, you know, 20 maybe, I guess for you, Derron, or roughly around that, and Harvey, whatever it was, 35 or 36. And not to say what's your favorite memory, but is there like one particular moment or a couple that might stick out to you, or just a moment of pride or happiness, or just like, wow, that was pretty cool? Or any of you can answer that question, quite frankly.
That's a tough one.
How about you, Amy? Or Andrew Howell? Yeah. You're muted, but you sound great.
Sorry, I'm muted. I can give you kind of a little generic answer. I mean, one of the things for me that was so special about Twelfth Night, I only got to direct it for a couple of years, but it was so central to who I was as a teenager in particular, and being in that behind the scenes tech group and feeling like I was part of that family, not as a singer in the chorus, but as someone who got to kind of help the show from the backside of things and make sure that, you know, whatever little element I was given was happening. But I just remember, as with so many young kids who got involved in that side, just wanting to spend as much time as possible there. You know, you tried to stay out as late as possible, and you wanted to do the all-nighter, and you wanted to be involved in just every little bit of time that you could squeak out with all of these other wonderful people, and being kind of formed by those relationships that we all created in this intensity of time that we spent together for just that brief time, just felt like, you know, it was like going to camp in some ways. You were in a completely different world for a little while, and just becoming a group and a family that, you know, was something very special.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I mean, oh, go ahead, Harvey.
No, you know, and I'm only, it's, I won't say for a second this is like my favorite memory, but I've been reminded of it recently because I've been cleaning up at the costume shop and I've been coming across the props so much. But the year we had the sounder of Boar, and we cast, it was about 146 little kids as Boarlets, and they did all these things. They're rushing around, but then they rushed on stage with the puppet pieces and formed that huge kind of nebulous spirit boar head that ended up, it was just one of those things that it was a picture I had in my head, and it came together. Like, it did what it was supposed to do. Like, it was all these little tiny animals that were kind of overwhelming, but cute, but then they formed this sort of like gestalt, like really intense, intimidating thing, and then fell apart again. And it was the moments like that, the moments where I knew I had that, I was able to, whatever it had happened in my head, I had been able to get it onto the page well enough that then it was able to get into other people's heads well enough to make it to the stage. And that was great. There's a lot of steps there. And that was one of the ones that kind of came together for me, and I was happy with the end result.
It was really cool to see. Amy?
No, it's every time something worked, every time we made a big procession worked, it was so exciting to me. Like, every time, I mean, you see, I want to watch baseball and you see the pitcher like walking off the mound and like going like this. And like, that's how I felt when the music was like, ta-da! And everyone was on stage and perfect. And I was like, oh, we did it again. Yeah. It just blew my mind every time.
I would say two different things for me. One, I really loved the Baba Yaga year with the horses. The stilting horses I thought was something very unique and fun, where the different elements, costumes and music and performance all came together. And the other really was the nymphs and shepherd dance, the sheep dance at the end. And both because of the poignancy of that year, where it was sort of Anne's last year, but also that dance was so special and so beautiful. And I think it's symbolically really and metaphorically represented what, you know, the Chorus of Westerly's been doing with Twelfth Night for, you know, what, 40, how many years you guys do it? 40?
40.
Yeah.
40. And
it was really metaphorically, I think, just the magic that was created, and simple and beautiful. And I just remember those two dancers were just spot on and spectacular, just wonderful.
Mike, Andrew, anyone else? Are we good?
I just
coming
yeah,
back,
Mike, go ahead.
when we moved back to New England and being part of it again as an adult was great. That was just a lot of fun to rekindle a lot of relationships, a lot of people, and be part of that amazing production again. But then selfishly, it was having I think she was 2, having our 2-year-old daughter as a crown kid, and picking her up, you know, at the end during the boar's head procession. That was pretty special that she got to experience that as well.
It's awesome.
There's just, Derron just said it, but there's so much magic to it. I mean, for me, I do what I do as a career now because of Twelfth Night and being inside that theatrical world that the chorus made possible for me. And, I remember what it was like to be 8 years old and singing in the chorus, not in the show, and to be there for the very first time. And Amy, what was Jesse's last name? It was the dancer who wore Jillian's big heads and things. He was a unicorn that year. And
was it Derron style? Am I remembering that right?
yeah.
He was
And there was this giant sort of gazebo built on the stage, and the show started, and the lights came up, and there was this wonderful dry ice fog rolling over the thing. And I didn't know, but in the dark, this man had climbed up there and laid down with this gigantic unicorn paper mache head on his head and just sat up out of the fog, out of nowhere. And it felt like this magic, and my whole life since then, it's been about how can we create magical experiences for people, And the other thing I have to say, Harvey, if it makes any difference to you, sheep are funny. We made all of the sheep that year out of shaggy bath mats, if that makes any difference to the comedy of them.
Oh, I organizing them.
Well, it's just been magical getting to lately. Andrew and I have been watching old things back and watching all the shows, and it's quite a lot of fun. Got a Pops Extra here, there, Harvey's daughter. It's been great fun watching back on all of these things, but it is really a token to all of your hard work, because all of you, because it really was wonderful. We joked early on, we were auditioning later and all this for trees. But I think, having been a tree myself many a time, I think you just wanted to be on that stage and part of the magic any way, shape, or form you could. And because it really was special. There was nothing, to be truthful with all of you, that I enjoyed more than ringing the bell at the end of Twelfth Night. And I know other people did it over time, but I think that the two greatest privileges I had as executive director was ringing the bells at Twelfth Night and ringing them at Summer Pops. And that had more to do because that felt like a grounding to me to the chorus and to Christ Church, where I came from. But Anne and Nora Spence were the people who really told me to go to graduate school in arts administration. So they didn't put me into, the actual lively art career in terms of being an actor or director or singer, but they put me in my other path. So I think we owe a lot to them. And then you look at the folks, all of you here involved with this, and Anne's role and impact. But, here we have John Tafone writing all this amazing music that he was inspired out of Twelfth Night. And we have our friend Andrew Burnap, who's being on here. I mean, goodness gracious, nominated for a Tony. I mean, look at that, and I'm sure it warms all of your hearts when he talks about his start in Twelfth Night, because it certainly warms mine. And he has a very fond love for you, Derron, and he loves you too, Harvey, all of us. But he really, when Andrew and I had a chance to go to London a couple of years ago, when he was over there when the show, The Inheritance, was at the New Vic, or the Young Vic, right? Am I getting new, young? Not the old Vic, the other Vic. And he introduced us to whomever was the artistic director there, who is very famous, and I forget his name, and I'm sorry. I can do conductors. I'm not as good at directors. But he sat down, he said, these people and all the people they work with, that's why I'm here. And we're just sitting in this theater in London, and he's explaining to somebody far more famous than me, and saying that. I was like, boy, you all did good. We all did good. So thank you all for that very much. Now it is time for us to do one thing before the lightning round. Now you have to think really fast, because this is where Andrew Ledester, you're going to write this down. You got a pen and a paper?
I got it.
All right. Yep. I'm going to call out your name, and you're just going to answer this real fast. Harvey, give me a noun.
Banana.
Derron, give me a plural noun.
Bananas.
Michael, give me a noun.
Turtle.
Amy, give me a noun.
Zimblestern.
What?
No.
Zimblestern. I'll put it in the comments.
Andrew Howell, give me a verb.
Running.
Harvey, give me a verb.
Squat.
Derron, give me a noun.
Treat.
Michael, give me a verb.
Sneeze.
Okay. Amy, give me a number.
7.2.
Good.
Andrew, give me a measure of time. Oh, God. Here's an answer.
A decade.
Okay. I thought you were giving me like 6'8". Harvey, give me a number.
3.14.
Andrew, am I going too fast or am I good?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Darren, give me a food item plural.
Food item. Bananas.
And that's got to be the next one. It's the same food item. It says Andrew.
Yep.
Okay. Who would be next on this? Michael, a color.
Mauve.
Mauve. Amy, a color.
Chartreuse.
Andrew, a verb.
Picking.
And Harvey, a noun.
Stool.
Okay, we're gonna come back to that in a second. Ben, let's open up the lightning round. Ooh, we changed up the music for you, Harvey. All right, you just have to answer it. The team's gonna ask you their questions. Ready? And either Darren or Harvey, you can answer. Whoever gets it first gets a point. Whatever. Go ahead, Andrew Howell.
It's not Christmas yet. Holly or boxwood?
Holly.
Yeah, Holly.
Point for Darren. Michael. Michael, you just have to ask the question. Michael Freitas. Michael
I
Freitas.
am having technical difficulties.
Okay. Who
question
is this
am I
actress?
having
Ben, show the
technical
picture of the actress.
What?
Who is this actress?
Paula Rockwell.
Yep, Paula Rockwell. We got it. Okay, Ben. Okay, you could, Andrew Howell, go ahead. Next question.
What battle music is the fourth from the sun?
Mars.
Ha
Okay, Ben, next picture, the actor.
Who is this actor?
Frank Patton.
Yes.
That's Franklin.
Wow.
There's your
Bernie
horse.
Saunders.
Okay, Michael, go
Translate
ahead. Can you
this.
do it?
Translate this from the Latin. Caputapri de ferro radens laudes domino.
Caputapri de ferro, redens laudes domino. What does it translate to?
Wash, rinse, repeat.
But no, it's actually bananas.
Bananas. Good enough. Okay, Amy, go.
1 year after Twelfth Night, Ann Utter led a procession through the Best Eaten drive-thru, riding what Twelfth Night creature?
Green horse.
And the whale.
Oh, that's right. She also did it riding the whale.
Whale?
2 years.
Right, the whale. I remember that bit.
Amazing.
That's a Bill Crosdale special, right? There you
Mhm.
go. All right, Michael, can you ask your question here?
Is there a photo?
Yeah, next photo, Ben.
Who is this member of the Tech Guild?
Alan Walensky. I almost said Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman. From now on. All right, Amy, go ahead.
Okay, finish these lines, please. Besides, we must know the P also.
Must
Rebel is queen is the court here.
Woo! Also, on Christmas Eve, the bells were rung. On Christmas Eve.
the something sung.
Yep, we'll take that.
Okay, I didn't know either. It's the mass was sung, apparently.
The mask is
That's
done.
the thing.
It's because by that point in the show, everyone's like, we're out. We're done. Get off the stage.
We're all quietly saying to each other loud enough for the whole audience to hear. Just go. Just go. Just go.
All right, Ben, close it up. That's the quick lightning round. Woo! Okay, and now Darren and Harvey. Andrew Ledestri, if we were having a mythical new 12th night, Andrew Ledestri would now like to audition for you. He is, let me tell you a little bit about Andrew. Andrew comes from George Street in Westerly, where he starred in such plays as, I don't know, he's going to take off his shirt now. He needs to get into character. Okay, Andrew, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Now the banana comes, with a cake full of bananas, with a bean as the turtle of the Zimblestern here. Besides, we must run, the pea also must squat as the queen of the tree here. Begin then to choose this night as you use, who shall for the present sneeze here, be king by the lot, and who shall not be 7.2 day queen for the decade here. 3.14 special bananas amongst these lie. The bean banana wrapped in mauve to a man must hie. Ladies, gather bananas all wrapped in chartreuse. If yours the pea, tonight you'll pick the stool.
Wow.
So many bananas.
So I don't know.
That's better than
I
the
think
original, I
cast
think.
him as, Hanuman the monkey god. That's where I think he needs to be.
Yes.
Wow.
Hanuman.
Andrew, would you please send that to Harvey so Harvey can keep that in case we ever need it?
Yes.
I mean, that sounds to me like 12th night for a new age, right? Right there, it's a cake full of bananas, Just never know. But we have just a couple minutes left before we wrap up here. Andrew Howell, did you have anything that you wanted to ask? You sent me a whole bunch of questions earlier, so
Nah, this has been great.
Well, it really has been. It really has been wonderful. I guess the last question that I would put out to any of you out there is say someday we brought the show back. And by the way, to the public, I'm not making any public announcements right now. I'm just saying, say someday we did. If there was something that we could do with a show like this, say money was no expense. So I don't want like live animatronics like dinosaurs or something. But is there any crazy idea that you think would be exciting that we could do someday?
Well, we
Anyone?
also had this nutso idea that they would put like the 12 days of Christmas into 12th night, where like there was like 72 people all being the separate like parts of the 12 days of Christmas. It's just wacko. I don't
How
know.
did that serve the story, man?
Bananas.
What were you going to say, Derron?
Revelry. It's after the
Talking
story.
about flying someone.
Yeah,
Through the hall.
and more just making sure that I think in terms of dance and puppetry and lights, making sure that we were up to the expectations of our own memory of the show. Part of the show is it is such a kind of a visceral, magical experience. It really, if it's going to do its thing, it's got to really do its thing.
Yeah.
Also, it'd be really fun to figure out a way to do it. Do one weekend at Westerly and then do a weekend somewhere else. But I know that that's like fairly bananas. But
Well, the new script
Banana
have
cake.
bananas in it.
But-
So.
I'd love to see somehow expand the audience because I'd love to share it with more people.
I think the other thing that nowadays with some of the advancements in electronics and different things like that, flying puppets through the hall, like those they've got balloons and fish and all sorts of stuff, and with mechanisms with animatronics and things that aren't super expensive, you could create an entire aquarium under, you'd have fish flying over the audience's heads and all sorts of wild, cool stuff that would really mess with the lighting crew.
Andrew,
Derron, I feel like you must have not directed the year. Amy, I'm not going to get the names right. And I'd written the show. Gene Copperwood played a bird, but then also the two leads, the man and the woman, were something of Avignon. They were both birds.
That was a Mike Phillips show.
In that first draft, I remember she had people like flying from like where the spotlights were all the way over the audience, across the hall into the stage, and back and forth and up and down. So I don't know who had to go to her and be like, okay, sweetie, like there's not a planet where we're going to make this piece happen. And in the end, they lifted Gene Copperwood up on a wire from the back with like 5 guys holding it like this while she dangled this way back and forth for a minute and went back to the floor. Standard.
Yeah. And a lucky young ingenue worked her synthesizer.
That was you? I thought that was Harvey.
Harvey was always responsible for grabbing the actual clarinets. I was in the pit pushing buttons.
That is a brother-sister duo if I've ever heard one.
That's my 12th night horror story. Because it was the year where Jean was a jester, and then she was a snake, and then she was a jester again, and she had a quick change on stage, like in the middle of like a swirling fabric effect. She had to change outfits and go from synthesizer clarinet to regular clarinet. And I got up there and I grabbed the synth and I like brought it back to Bunky while she's changing on stage, and I go to grab her show clarinet, which has been like bedazzled, and the ligature that holds the reed to the clarinet is missing. So I turn around and I like kind of go like this, and I'm holding a reed and a clarinet. and she just like looks at me like half like dressed, and she kind of Bunky, and Bunky, I swear, like out of his pocket pulls another clarinet and gives it to her, and I'm like, what's happening? Like,
when you get your degree in conducting, they give you an honorary clarinet for emergencies.
like the clarinet of Gryffindor coming out of there. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, but that's my one horror story. Just like a reed and a clarinet, and being like 9 or 10 years old and not knowing what to do.
Well, it's just wonderful stories, and you know, like these are theoretical things if something should happen down the line, but we're not making any announcements about anything right now today. We're always thinking about things at the chorus, but right now we don't even know when we're going to get back in the hall. So all ideas are on the table, but that's about it. I'm trying to get prompted by our producer to say more things, but that's all I'm saying right about now here. To file a complaint about Ryan Wow. Ben is throwing us under the bus.
Woo, great.
Yeah, there's no look, let me be blunt. And I said this to some of you out there, which is we've always said that it's something that we would consider in the future, right? Andrew Howell, we're not at a point where we even know what our next season in the hall is going to be yet because of COVID. And you know, but I think right now, yeah, we're thinking about everything, and that's something we're thinking about. And but no, I don't want to burst anyone's bubble through these 12 days. There's no secret announcement coming in 12 days or anything along those lines. We have much love for it, but if anything like that ever were to happen again, it has to happen for the right reasons and be done right. And Andrew, do you want to say anything more, since Ben is now throwing me under the bus entirely? Since, you know, you are the guy in charge of the other side.
I'll let you be under the bus. That's fine.
Great.
Auditions November 2021.
Yes, at Michael's house. That's right, for ribbon dancing. All right, my friends. Well, on that note, I'm gonna go find myself a beverage. And Harvey, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Derron, my friend, always wonderful to see you. We do miss you dearly this time of year. And to you both, thank you for everything that you gave to the show, but you continue to give, Harvey, with all of your work with the chorus, which has been great. And Derron, what all the stuff you're doing with Flock Theater. I know that you were doing a lot in the schools too beyond that before all this happened. But again, if you'd like to make a donation right now here at the end of the year, you still can. It's flocktheater.org, right, Derron?
Yes.
Theater with a R-E at the end.org. You can make a donation. They're a 501c3, just like the chorus. You'll be helping out an incredible organization, of which many of our former singers and actors have been involved with too, including Amy, who has quite a role in that as well. And of course, it's the end of the year too, so I'd be remiss to not say you can also donate to the Chorus of Westerly right now at chorusofwesterly.org. But this is going to be the first of several programs over the next 2 weeks. We hope they entertain you. Please know to everyone out there in the public that we wish you nothing but health and safety during this time, and much love to all of you. I know a lot of you are dealing with some very difficult things right now, but I know we will all be back together in our theaters and our concert halls soon. And in the meantime, you just get to listen to us on the internet. So on behalf of our guests, Harvey Blanchette, Derron Wood, and our hosts, Andrew Howell, Amy Blanchette, Michael Freitas, and Andrew J. Bongo Ledestri, Happy New Year, and we'll see you on the next thing on the internet. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Oh, yeah. Happy birthday, Pam.